What's up guys, Justin here with TheSketchUpEssentials.com, back with another SketchUp extension tutorial for you. So a couple weeks ago I created a video showing you how to create a stud framed wall using Profile Builder 2. Today we're going to learn how to create a concrete foundation, including a foundation drain as well as some earthwork. So let's go ahead and jump into it. So first things, if you want to download a copy of Profile Builder 2, you can go check that out at TheSketchUpEssentials.com/profile builder. And this is a paid extension, but there's also a free trial of this as well. So let's go ahead and just jump into this thing. So this is the Profile Builder toolbar up here at the top of the screen. And so the way that this works is we're going to create an assembly. So basically the way that Profile Builder works is there's two different things that it has in here. It has profiles, which are basically shapes that it extrudes along a path, as well as assemblies, which is like groups of the different profiles that you've created. So what we're going to do is we're going to start off and we're going to come in here and we're going to draw the profile of our foundation. So in this case I'm going to draw a rectangle, and then I activate the rectangle tool by tapping the R key. Then I tap the left key on my keyboard and I just click on this origin point, and you can see how now I'm drawing a rectangle. Well, now we're just going to type in the dimensions. So in this case I'm going to assume this is a 1 foot by 4 foot high foundation wall right here. So this is the straight up and down piece of that foundation wall, and basically what we're doing is we're drawing the profile. So if you were to extrude this shape, for example, it goes into a 3D piece, but the profile is just the flat face of our foundation wall. So once you've created that, basically all you need to do is just drag your mouse around it like this to select it, and then you're just going to come in here and you're going to click the plus button in the Profile Builder menu. So that's going to look like this little like this crown molding profile that says Profile Builder dialog. So you're going to click on that and that's going to pop this up, and then you're just going to click the plus button for new profile, and we'll just call this foundation wall 1 foot wide by 4 foot high. We'll hit OK. So you can see how what that did is now it shows your profile right here in the Profile Builder preview box. And so now if you were to stop right here and just come down here to this build and then to click, you can see how it would extrude this piece along this path just like this. And we want to do a little bit more with this, but you can see how this is already a profile in here. So what we're going to do first is we're going to come in here and we're going to set the placement point of this wall. So in this case we're going to go with we'll go with bottom middle for right now. So basically that means wherever you click, so the 2 points that you click are going to be where your wall starts and finishes, and your start point is right in the middle of the wall as opposed to being on the sides right here, and you can change this later, but we're going to go ahead and start off with that. We've got our placement point set. Next thing we're going to do is I'm actually going to come in here and I'm going to add a material to this wall. So there's asphalt and concrete over here in your materials section of your tray, and there's a couple different options you can use. There's a concrete form and also a concrete aggregate smoke. I'm going to go with the concrete aggregate smoke. So I'm going to go ahead and put that on my wall right here, and really the only reason I put it on my wall is so I can come down here and select it from this drop down. So basically with any profile you can set the material that it adds to your wall. So the way that you're going to do that is you're going to click this drop down and you're just going to select the material, and this is all the materials that are active in your model. So you have to kind of add the color to your model before you can add it to a profile, but we're going to go ahead and click this concrete aggregate smoke, and then we're going to go ahead and save our profile. So in this case we're going to come in here and we're going to name it foundation wall 1 foot wide by 4 foot high. That's fine, and hit save. So now this is a saved profile, so now when you go look for it, that's going to be in your library of profiles. And one thing I would suggest you do is find a folder for all the profiles that you build and put them all in the same place so they're easy to find. So I've created this kind of custom plugins Profile Builder profiles folder, but you can do whatever you want with that. But now it'll come with this list that you can go ahead and select. So anyway, now that we've done that, you can see how I can add these into my model real easy. So now that we've done that, we're going to come in here and we're going to do the same thing with our spread footer that goes beneath our foundation wall. So what you're going to do is you're going to come in here and you're going to draw another profile. So in this case, I'm going to say this is a 3 foot wide footer. So I'll start from the middle and say 1'6" wide. We'll say it's 12 inches thick. So we'll just do the same thing we did before. We'll just draw the profile of our footer. So now you're going to come in here and you're going to select your footer just like this and do the same thing. We're going to create a profile called footer 3 foot wide by 1 foot high and hit OK. And the reason I'm putting the dimensions in here is because if I end up creating a whole bunch of these, I want to know what size they are when I'm picking them out of my library. So anyway, now we've kind of got this more flat shape. So if we were to just extrude a copy of that just like this, it would go ahead and put it in that way. But what we want to do is we want to come in here and we want to go ahead and select that material like we did before. We also want to set our entrance point on this one to top middle. So now when I click, you can see how the point that it sets it off of is on the top of your foundation, right in the middle, just like this. So now we've created these two pieces. We're going to go ahead and save this. So just hit save and then save it with a name you'll recognize, just like this. And see now, when you search for it, that'll show up in your list of stuff as well. So that's what we're going to start off. So we've got two profiles created in here, and we can go ahead and erase these guys now because we don't need them anymore. But now what we're going to do is we're going to come in here and we're going to create an assembly. And an assembly is just a group of objects that this creates together whenever you create the new assembly. So what we're going to do is there's two boxes on here. There's the profile member and there's the component. So the component would be something that if you were to copy along a path, for example, and you needed to copy a whole bunch of things like stair pickets or wood framing or something like that, this would be where you'd set where all those components repeat. But in this case, we don't really need that. We just need profile members. And profile members is basically the objects that are going to get extruded along your path. So let's go ahead and just come in here and add a couple things. So first thing you're going to do, and by the way, you can get to the assembler by clicking on this assembler dialog up here in your menu bar up above. But that's going to pop up this PB assembler. And then, so first thing we're going to do is we're going to add a profile. So you're going to click this plus button right here. And then now what that does is that lets you add a profile to your model. So in this case, what we're going to do is we're going to click on this little button right here. That'll pop up your profile builder menu in here. So that allows you to select a profile. So you're just going to come in here and you're going to click this profile browser. You're going to navigate to that folder with all your profiles in it. And then you're going to go ahead and we're going to start off and just select our foundation wall. So click on that foundation wall. Make sure the material is set correctly. And if you wanted to, you could put all your foundation walls on a different layer. So like if I was to come in here and say foundation walls, so create a new layer in the layers section. And then I may have to refresh this so that it shows up. There we go. So you can go ahead and select this foundation walls layer and hit OK. And so you can see how what this does is now that brings in a preview of this foundation wall. So now if I was to put this assembly in here, it would basically just be putting a foundation wall in your model. So now what we're going to do is we're going to add a second piece to this. So you're going to click that plus again, and you're going to add a second piece by clicking on this object. So go in here, navigate to where your footer was, and then click on that. And you can create another layer in here for footers, and I'll probably have to refresh this again. So there we go. So you can select footers if you want to, and putting stuff on different layers is optional. I like to do it just because it lets me keep my model organized, but you don't have to do that. So go ahead and hit OK. So you can see what that does is that brings in now your assembly is made up not only of your foundation wall, but also your spread footer. So both of those objects get brought in and extruded as a part of your assembly now. So, and you can see how these line up right because I've got my insertion point for both of them set to the same point. So in this case, for example, the insertion point of my wall is at the bottom of this wall right in the center, and the insertion point of my footer is right at the top right in the center. And so what that does is that lines everything up so that you don't have to worry about offsetting things or stuff like that. So anyway, now we've got kind of our basic foundation wall in here, but what I want to do is I want to come in here and I want to add like a foundation drain. So like a lot of the time in walls like this, what happens is water comes to this wall and it runs to the bottom, and then you add a drain to drain the water off of here. So what I want to do is I want to come in here and add that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come in here and I'm going to draw a little rectangle just like this, and I'm just doing what I usually do, which is I'm creating kind of a canvas for me to draw on. So I'm just going to draw a 4" by 4" rectangle just like this. And then what I can do is I can come in here and I can create a circle. So I'm going to kind of inference off of these points and just create a circle that runs around the center of this object just like this. And then you can come in here and delete out your kind of perimeter stuff. But then I'm going to offset this by, let's say, 1/4 inch, and then I'll delete the centerpiece. And what we're doing here is we're creating another profile basically. So what we're going to do is we're going to double click on this to select it, and then we're going to go back to our profile builder. We're going to click add, and we're going to call this drain pipe just like this. So you can see what that does is that brings this profile in here. It brings this profile in here basically as drawn. So now if I was to click here, I'll move off to the side so you can see it a little better. But now if I was to just come in here and add this just like this, you can see how it's basically extruding that piece along that path. So, and then the other thing we want to do is let's go ahead and come in here and we'll just pick a color like a black. So we'll just color this up. And then now you should be able to come down here, and that's that color M09. So just select that color just like this. So now you've got your drain pipe, and we'll actually call this drain pipe 4". And then we're going to do the same thing. We're just going to come in here and we're going to hit save. So you got to be careful what you put in your file name. So like it won't let the inches sign go in here. So we're just going to call this drain pipe -4 for what we save it as. But the next thing we're going to do is we're going to come in here and we're going to set the insertion point to center left, just like this. So now when you click to add this, it's going to insert it based on a point that you have right here. So we're going to go ahead and we'll hit save on that one for right now. So, and anytime you update this, you can just save it over your SketchUp file that this creates. So like I can just double click on this to save over it. Just like that. So anytime you update it, just select that same file and just kind of save over it just like that. So now what we're going to want to do is we're going to want to add this pipe in here. So come in here, and you know, one other thing I didn't really mention is you can come in here and you can name these. So like for example, my foundation wall, I'm going to go ahead and name it foundation wall. And then the same thing with my footer, I'm going to name that footer. And the reason we're going to do that is because those are going to show up in some reports later, and we're going to know what we're going to want to know what they are. So what you're going to do is you're going to click this plus button just like this to add another object, and then come in here and select your drain pipe that you created. And you can put that on its own. I got to start adding the layers before I click on this. So you can put this on a drain pipe layer. So go ahead and click on this. Select your drain pipe, make sure you select the right layer, and then go ahead and bring this in, just like this. So now when I click and bring this in, it's not going to work quite the way that I want it to work. So, and the reason for that is now if I bring this in, that drain pipe is going to come in this wall, just like this. So you can see how it's not quite offset the way that we want it to be offset. And so the way that we're going to fix that is we're going to come in here and we're going to adjust the offset of the object. So what we should be able to do is we should be able to come in here, and basically what we want to do is we want to move this from the center point. We want it to come over 6 inches, and we're going to want it to come up two inches. So we're going to set our left-right offset. So we're going to set the right offset to 4 inches, or 6 inches, sorry. Just like this. And then we're going to set our up-down offset to 2 inches. So now you can see how this kind of refreshed the assembly view, and it's not giving us a very good view of it right now. But now if you come in here and you bring this profile in, it should bring it in a lot closer to the way that we want it. So there we go. So you can see how what that did is that moved the profile over 6 inches. and up 2 inches. So now your foundation drain shows up on the side of your wall just like this instead of being in the middle of your wall. So you can use these offsets basically to set where things show up in your model, and you're basically offsetting them from whatever your insertion point is. So you're basically telling it move the insertion point over and up. So if we had set that to over here, then we would have to move our insertion point over further. So anyway, now we've got our foundation wall in here, we've got our foundation drain in here, and the one thing I also kind of want to add in is I want to kind of create in some earthwork. So like our backfill material that would come in on top of this. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to rough in a profile of this object. So I'm just basically drawing lines here, and we'll call this, we'll draw this up 12 inches. We'll draw a line out 12 inches from here. It may have to be a little more than that. We'll call it 24 inches. And so basically all I'm doing is roughing out that profile of what this would look like if I had dirt work along here. So I'm just going to draw a profile to kind of infill this, and SketchUp will fill this in for you once you kind of get it drawn. And this is going to get you close. You may miss a little bit of dirt work in here. Some people may want to put this over this line just to get your quantity right. But in this case, I think we're going to be okay. So we're going to come in here and we're going to select, select pea gravel for right now. So basically we're just coming in here and we're setting up our profile so that we can bring it into Profile Builder. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to come in here and we're going to add a new profile. So you're going to click New Profile, and we're going to call this Gravel Backfill, just like this. And you can see how since I had this whole thing selected, it brought in the profile the way that it was drawn, which is perfect. That's exactly what we want it to do. And in this case, I think probably we're going to want the insertion point on this one to be, we'll try top left. So we're going to do this as top left. We'll set the material to pea gravel, and we're going to go ahead and save that profile. So we'll call this Gravel Backfill. We'll save a copy of that. So now that's going to be in your object, or that's going to be in your profile library. And so now if you, for example, if you were to come in here and you were to go ahead and make a extrusion of this, you can see how it basically creates this all the way along wherever you set this point. So I'm going to delete that out, but we're going to go ahead and add it into our assembly now. So you're just going to do the same thing you did before. First of all, I'm going to label this drain pipe. And then you're going to click this plus button because we're going to add our gravel in here. You're going to do the same thing, just select the little profile button, come in here and select gravel, just like this. And you can set the layer to Gravel Backfill. Select this little object in here again, set the layer to Gravel Backfill, go ahead and hit OK. And I think we're going to have to offset this a little bit, but we'll give it a try. So if I add this in, yeah, my Gravel Backfill isn't quite right. So what we're going to want to do is go back and adjust our insertion point on this one. So you can see how I picked the wrong one. I probably should have picked bottom left. So you go ahead, come in here, select bottom left. That's going to set our point a little bit better. We'll go ahead and hit save. We're still going to have to offset it a little bit, but we're going to go ahead and save over a copy of this for right now. Can erase this out and let's try it again. Go ahead and hit OK. So you can see how now this is coming in a little bit better. You can kind of see from this preview that it's going to be a little high though. So what we're going to do is we're going to come back in and we're going to drop it down by 12 inches. So you're just going to bring this in. So you're just going to set the up-down offset to -12. Just like that. And you can see how now that lines up. So you can go ahead and add this in. It's still off a little bit, so we're going to have to move this over by probably 6 inches. So we'll set our left-right offset to 6 inches. We'll erase this piece back out and we'll try it one more time. There we go. So you can see how what I did is I set this to offset that down 12 inches so that it sits right on this piece right here, and then across 6 inches. So to the side. And all you're doing is you're messing around with that insertion point to make sure it's in the right location is all that you're doing. So anyway, now if you bring this wall in, it's going to bring in your Gravel Backfill. which this wouldn't necessarily be gravel, but that's just the material that I picked for this one. So anytime you create this wall, it's going to bring in your gravel backfill, your foundation drain, as well as your foundation wall. So, and you can come in here, you can add another profile to backfill it on the back side so you can see what that quantity is as well. But we'll go ahead and label this gravel backfill. And so, and one of the things I want to point out is since we brought these in on different layers, you can turn them on and off. So you can come in here and you can turn gravel backfill on and off. You can turn your foundation drain, your footer. If you bring those in on different layers, then your model gets really organized and you can really adjust the way that everything looks. So like for example, if you come in here and you've got a big old building footprint, right, and you bring that in as a path and then you build along the path just like this. So you can't necessarily see the drain and everything else when you bring this in because it just kind of brings it around the corner here. But if you turn the gravel backfill off, you can see how now you can see the foundation drain in there. You could turn the foundation walls off to see kind of how everything sits on there. So it gives you a lot of different options. So the last thing we're going to do is we're going to save this assembly. So we're going to come in here and we're just going to call this foundation wall. We'll just call this foundation assembly. So then you're going to come in here, you're going to click the save button and you're going to do the same thing. You're just going to save that in your folder where you've been saving all of your profiles. So you're just going to come in here and save this as whatever you want to call it. Go ahead and click save. And then now what that's going to do when you go into that folder and is that assembly actually shows up as an option in this list. So as you build a library of assemblies, you can come in here and create different things and all that. And you can also put these all into folders. So if you wanted to have like a foundations folder and a walls folder and everything else, you could definitely do that. So the last thing I want to talk about real quick is I want to come in here and I want to talk about quantifying these objects. So you can come up here and you can select this object that says quantifier, and you can come in here and you can actually run a component report to see what's in here. So you just select component report. You want to make sure report child objects is selected, and then you're going to go ahead and click this create report button. And what that's going to do is that's going to spit out a report that has everything from the volume of your gravel backfill, the volume in cubic feet. So if you figure things in yards, make sure you do your conversion there. But it's going to give you a report of your total length of your drain pipe, the yardage of your footers, the yardage of your foundation walls, and you can also come in here and you can add cost to those so you can actually figure out the cost of creating this assembly. So all in all, this is a really great extension for doing stuff like this. So tons of options, all that different stuff. So anyway, that's where I'm going to wrap up today's video. Leave a comment below. Let me know what you thought. Can you think of any ways that you'd like to use this extension? Have you tried it before? I just love having that SketchUp conversation with you guys. If you like this video, please remember to click that like button down below. If you're new around here, please click that subscribe button for new SketchUp content every week. If you want to give this extension a try, click the link down below. You can go ahead and give that a shot. It's got a free trial and everything else. So give it a try. Let me know what you think. So I just want to say thank you for taking the time to watch this. I really appreciate it, and I will catch you in the next video. Thanks, guys.